everyone, I am Peter from Top Think, and today we are going to go through the genius test that 99% fail. Now, let's begin. The word genius has all kinds of definitions, which have been used to describe a myriad of prominent figures over the course of human history. People like Charles Dickens have earned the title for their literary prestige, creating numerous masterpieces that have stood the test of time. Musicians like Mozart and Chopin were artistic prodigies whose compositional mastery and imagination transformed music as we know it. Great thinkers like Galileo and Descartes were geniuses for their remarkable contributions to math, science, and philosophy. All of these individuals changed history, but have little else in common. So why do we call them all geniuses? Well, the easy answer is to look at their intelligence quotients, or IQs, a numerical value calculated using several standardized tests to measure an individual's intelligence. These tests were not around when many of these prestigious individuals were alive, but people have been able to approximate their scores. It's not all too surprising that most of them would have probably scored well above 150, which puts them into genius territory. So wouldn't that mean that a genius is defined by a high IQ? Here's the thing so many people don't realize about IQ tests. They are, at best, an estimation, because unlike the answer to 2 + 2 or how many inches are in a foot, intelligence cannot be summed up by a single value. Intelligence is an abstract concept. It's our way of generally describing something that is too diverse and subjective to actually quantify. When we say intelligent, we really mean that this person demonstrates some sort of superior cognitive or psychological ability, but that could take any number of forms. There are plenty of people who have genius-level talents, but score extremely low on these standardized tests. For example, look at people with savant syndrome. They may be able to paint an entire city from memory, play symphonies after only hearing it once, or remember the details of every day they've ever lived. Yet many are considered mentally disabled or have suffered brain damage. So, before we get into our test, let's switch up our definition of the term genius. Instead of thinking of them just as people with a bigger number than the rest of the world, we should conceptualize a genius as an individual with an unparalleled ability to solve problems, because, for whatever reason, they see things differently. Geniuses wield a unique perspective, allowing them to explore scientific, artistic, and philosophical concepts that may seem impossible. In other words, they can think outside the box, something 99% of the world has no idea how to do. So, when you're taking this test, you might think the answers are tricky, frustrating, or just dumb, but that's because they are designed to challenge your ability to set aside your normal way of thinking. This test won't tell you if you have a high IQ or a brilliant memory. But if you can solve it quickly and correctly, you may just have the problem-solving prowess that can truly define a genius. This test has 8 questions total that get progressively harder as it goes. I'm going to wait to discuss all the correct answers at the end, so I recommend writing your answers down. Remember that both speed and accuracy count. So, if you really want a challenge, time yourself as you go through each question. Now, let's get started. Question 1. Do they have a 4th of July in England? Why or why not? Question 2. What number comes next in this series? 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Is it A, 20, B, 21, C, 15, or D, 26? Question 3. In 1990, a person is 15 years old. In 1995, The same person is 10 years old. How is this possible? Question 4. Divide 30 by 1/2 and then add 10. What number do you get? A. 15, B. 25, C. 35, D. 60, or E. 70? Question 5. Jerry likes burgers, but not fries. Milkshakes, but not malts. Tacos, but not cheese. Does Jerry like pizza? Why or why not? Question 6. Two men, starting at the same point, walk in opposite directions for 4 feet, turn left, and walk another 3 feet. What is the distance between them? Is it A. 3 feet, B. 6 feet, C. 10 feet, D. 12.5 feet, or E. 14 feet? Question 7. You have 3 sealed boxes. One is labeled lemons, the next is labeled limes. The third is labeled lemons and limes. You know that each one is labeled incorrectly, so your goal is to figure out which box is which without looking inside. All you can do is pick one fruit from one of the boxes. How do you determine which box is which? Question 8. Which of these words is unlike the others and why? Hint: the difference has nothing to do with vowels, consonants, or syllables. A. Looted. B. Head. C. More. Or D. Nerved. Ready to find out how you did? Question 1. Do they have the 4th of July in England? The answer? Yes, England does have a 4th day in the month of July. On the surface, this question may seem really easy, but that's exactly why so many people get it wrong. When we're confronted with seemingly obvious answers, we tend to cut off our thought processes, satisfied with our initial conclusion, even if it's totally incorrect. When that happens, and it happens a lot, it can be really difficult for people to effectively shift their perspective. In this case, you may have gotten stuck thinking of the 4th of July as an American holiday, which makes it challenging to think about the phrase any other way. If you got this one right, it means you're flexible with your cognitive analysis, recognizing that a phrase can have multiple meanings and adjusting your solution accordingly. While it can be helpful in the real world to make use of these instinctual shortcuts in logic, geniuses tend to take things one step further. Question 2. What number comes next in this series? 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and 13. The answer? 21. Unlike the last question, this one tests your ability to recognize patterns. In this case, the pattern involved is adding the 2 previous numbers to find the next in the series. 2 plus 3 equals 5. 3 plus 5 equals 8. Therefore, to find the answer, you'll add 8 and 13, which equals 21. So what does this question have to do with being a genius? Well, pattern recognition actually requires significant creativity and innovation, requiring you to think up a variety of possible solutions based on very limited information. In fact, many of these standardized IQ tests are filled with these types of questions because of how important the relationship is between pattern recognition and creativity. Question 3. In 1990, a person is 15 years old. In 1995, the same person is 10 years old. How is this possible? The answer? The person was born in 2005 BC, meaning the years count down instead of up. This question is sure to cause some groans or frustration, but you shouldn't throw it out the window just yet. While this kind of question doesn't involve any complex math or tricky language, great problem solvers can also recognize when the most straightforward answer is actually the best one. Many people fall into the trap of imagining some convoluted situation where this kind of backwards aging is possible, while ignoring facts that most people in the world are well aware of. Additionally, people may get tripped up by the years 1990 and 1995, which are meant to subtly redirect your thinking away from the actual answer. Think about it. If the question had said the year 20 and the year 25, would you have had an easier time finding the answer? Question 4. Divide 30 by 1/2 and then add 10. What number do you get? The answer? 70. This explanation behind this one is rather simple, though that doesn't stop the majority of people from getting it wrong. If you were one of those people, you may want to reread the first 4 words of the question. While many people read that as, take half of 30, the question is actually telling you to divide 30 by the fraction 1/2, which is the same as multiplying by 2. 30 times 2 is 60, plus 10 equals 70. Similar to the first question, this solution again requires you to challenge your basic assumptions to arrive at the correct answer. Question 5. Jerry likes burgers but not fries, milkshakes but not malts, tacos but not cheese. Does Jerry like pizza? Why or why not? The answer? Yes, Jerry likes all foods with 2 syllables. While this was touched on in question 3, this question highlights how extra information can completely cloud our ability to solve problems. Most people are too focused on the types of foods or their ingredients that they ignore the words themselves, which is ultimately the only important part. Once you eliminate that distraction, this question just requires you to recognize a simple pattern. Question 6. 2 men, starting at the same point, walk in opposite directions for 4 feet, turn left, and walk another 3 feet. What is the distance between them? The answer? 10 feet. This question requires a little bit of geometry knowledge, but it is intended to challenge your ability to conceptualize shapes and space. To get this one right, you would have to understand that both men walk in a way that forms 2 special kinds of right triangles, which are 3, 4, 5 triangles. They're called that because the ratios of each side of the triangle will always be 3 to 4 to 5. So, if each man creates the 4 and the 3 sides of the triangle, naturally the resulting hypotenuse will fit the ratio. Since each man makes a triangle, you add the 2 5-foot lines together to get 10 feet. Question 7. You have 3 sealed boxes, but can only pick 1 fruit from each box. How do you determine which box is which? The answer? Pick 1 fruit from the box labeled lemons and limes. If you get a lemon, this box should be labeled lemons. If you get a lime, this box should be labeled limes. Because the signs on all of the boxes are currently incorrect, this box will only contain one or the other. Then, whichever box you just removed the sign from should be given the label for the other singular fruit, while the last untouched box should be labeled lemons and limes. This one is a bit complicated, but essentially boils down to a logic puzzle. The majority of people struggle to solve it because they get lost in their own reasoning. When trying out different scenarios or keeping track of several details in your head, it can be difficult to operate without a set of rules, even if there are only 2. Our mind naturally searches for shortcuts or ways to solve the problem by ignoring the rules entirely. Geniuses, however, tend to excel at not only pushing the boundaries of a concept, but recognizing innovative solutions within a defined framework. Question 8. Which of these words is unlike the others, and why? The answer: head, because the other three are anagrams for the names of cities. Looted is Toledo, more is Rome, and nerved is Denver. Why is this question considered to be so difficult? Well, on top of the fact that anagrams are really difficult for people to decipher, the hint actually throws people for a loop. After you're told that you shouldn't pay attention to something, it's often the only thing you can think about, which hinders your ability to effectively shift your perspective. Even if you get past the hint, chances are you're going to overcorrect by ignoring the structure of the words entirely, which again throws you off the scent. This kind of problem solving relies so heavily on our ability to be as observant and careful as we are creative, but it requires an exceptional mind to do both simultaneously.